Hello, I'm Jishan Krabanda.
And I'm Vram Batu. And welcome to our podcast, Weekly Dose of High School, where we'll be guiding you through the life of a high school student while speaking to knowledgeable people in the industry.
Welcome to our 12th episode. Today we are here with Aryan and Preet from their nonprofit organization Dream Big that strives to educate the community about the college admission process by providing live interactive sessions and a collaborative group chat to give creative tips for creating solid college applications. So today's episode is actually slightly different than the previous ones we have done in the sense that we're actually interviewing two high school students, one of them being a rising senior and one of them being a rising junior. And today's episode, we're going to hear like not only one person talk about their experience, but two. So it's going to be much more interactive in that way. So I highly recommend you check out the full episode. And this is a two-part series. So make sure you stay tuned for the next part, which will come out later in the week. So in today's episode, we're going to be hearing Aryan and Preet talk about their high school journey and how they feel they're prepared for the college admission process.
So, Preet and Aryan, would you like to add anything else?
Yeah, that is mostly it. We also have a YouTube channel with additional videos and a resources page on our website containing information consolidated from the group chat. Our website is www.dreambig4college.org.
Hey guys, please check out their website. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
All right, yeah, and before we get started, I would like to say that any of you guys can like speak, you, Preet and Aryan. There's no like certain order. And with that being said, let's get started. So, as you may know, most people tend to have like spikes in their extracurriculars, which is basically like the excel in one or two extracurriculars. For example, if you have like a music spike, you may have performed at Carnegie Hall, maybe, or if you're doing something like more technical, like in STEM related, you may have got into a really prestigious summer program or you created some sort of application which helped out. So, do you guys feel you have any like sort of spike in your extracurriculars?
Yeah, I think I had one spike. So basically for me, when I got into my high school, my freshman year, I got onto my robotics team.
Mm-hmm.
And by being selected on that team was a game changer for me because not only was that team very competitive and well known throughout like all the like programs, but it was also a significant boost in my college application.
Mm-hmm.
Because by participating in that program or on that robotics team, I was able to not only gain a lot of experience in the major I wanted to like major in, but also I learned so much more about the field itself, and I was able to strengthen my fundamentals for that major.
Got it. And then, if you don't mind, like, what team was that? Like the robotics team?
Oh yeah, so it was part of the first tech challenge program.
Uh-huh.
My team was Team Ink and Metal 5773, and it's a high school affiliated team. So we had an interview process, and I was very happy to get on the team with a few of my best friends. Um, and I think we're one of the four people that were selected that year. So it was just a complete game changer for me.
All right, thank you. Congrats. And Aryan, do you have anything that you want to add? Or
Well, I do have a spike in, I guess, computer science because as of late, I've been working on a lot of research projects. I've
Mhm.
also been developing a Discord bot and I'm working on an application. So yeah, my spike is mainly in computer science.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, so my first question is, what majors are you both applying to? If you are going down the CS or engineering path, what helped you sway away from the med route and vice versa?
Okay. Well, I'm leaning towards applying to mechanical engineering. And since I was very, very young, I've always been like a fond of taking apart RC cars or maybe playing around with all the electronics in my home. And
Mhm.
so I was always focused on that building aspect of like just anything in general rather than something else. But honestly, I didn't really like going to like hospitals and seeing how like they had so many like tools to like use to just like you know do stuff and then just like perform surgeries and all that. So ever since like my parents would ask me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'd always say I'm not going to be a doctor. I'd rather be someone like an engineer or like a CS major or something like that, because I've always been into robotics and into just coding stuff and building stuff. And that's why since that young age till now, I still have that same interest for robotics and engineering in general. And I always want to do something more hands-on with like tools and like just playing around with stuff than something as serious as a doctor.
Thanks,
Got
Preet.
it.
Would you like
So-
to add anything else, Aryan?
Well, actually, I was interested in both computer science and the medical field. I took AP Bio. It was pretty interesting. But then the thing that made me sway towards CS and not the medical field was that you have to spend like 12 more years after your first 12 years studying for, I guess, the medical field. So then that is a pretty big commitment. So I just didn't feel comfortable with actually spending that much time working towards getting my medical degree.
I think it's just a total of 12 years, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
your first 12 years of high school and then 12 more years after that.
Okay, I see what you mean.
So something that you just mentioned, Aryan, about like 12 years of more studies. So how about if a student like coming into high school as like a freshman wants to pursue med and then later on they towards the latter part of high school, they're like, no way, this is crazy. I don't want to spend like 12 years of my life studying. So they want to like change to CS or engineering, but they don't have like the extracurriculars ready for CS, something related to CS. So like what advice would you give those type of students? Like how can they still look good in the college admission process?
Well, basically, it's never too late to start exploring the major you want to go to. You can, I guess, learn a bit of Python here and there, like, look at some research projects, start doing some work to demonstrate your interest in the field. And I guess, yeah, it's never too late to start doing that.
I just want to add on. I know you mentioned about extracurriculars. So, in the admissions process, there's a few key factors that determine if you're admitted into a college or not. One being extracurriculars, and two being your essays. So, if you have weak extracurriculars, for example, if you change your major between your high school career, yeah, you might not have as strong of application as someone who's been firm on that major since the beginning of high school. But that's when your essays come into play. Maybe you can talk about why you switched, what were the factors that were involved in making you change your decision, and explain to the admission officers when they're reading in your essays what was that change and how that basically altered your life. And maybe give a strong detail about it and why you want to pursue this new major that you're currently interested in. And that should be good if you don't have as strong extracurriculars as other students, if you have a stronger essay portion.
So I like how you mentioned that your essays can make up for like weak or mid extracurriculars. I want to like add or ask a follow-up to this, which we like kind of asked like all of our guests. Do you think strong or stellar extracurriculars can make up, or stellar essays for that matter, can make up for weak stats?
As in like GPAs and SATs.
Definitely, there are certain schools that don't really care about that. Or I should say, like, certain schools prefer the GPA or your standardized testing scores over your extracurriculars or your essays. For example, UCLA is very academics heavy,
Right.
whereas Berkeley, on the other hand, although a high GPA is much better, it's also about your extracurriculars, what type of essays you're writing. And the thing is, in colleges, when you have good GPA or good like scores, that's not a reason for them to say, I'm going to reject you. Like when they ask you, like, why should we accept you into our college? If you're saying I have a 4.0 GPA or I've done this many APs and gotten fives on them, that's not a reason for them to say, okay, that's why we'll accept you. But rather it's a reason for them to not reject you. Having an extracurricular or stronger essays are the reasons that colleges want to accept you, if that makes sense. So in certain colleges, yes, to answer your question, yes, it might just help if you have stronger like portion on one end and the other end just not as strong or just a little bit weaker. But definitely, I think the best combo would be having a very strong, I guess, the stats. Like you should have very good stats, as that's a way for colleges to say, okay, this is the reason why we shouldn't reject you. Now give me a reason why we should accept you. Well, here's my extracurriculars and here's my essays, and there you go.
Mhm.
That's like the goal, basically.
Okay, so like you mentioned about the fact of UCLA, and basically you need like a 4.0 to get in, or like a 3.9 or higher. You also mentioned like in certain cases, stellar extracurriculars can make up for like a weaker GPA. But like I've heard like some schools, right, they use like this admission cutoff thing, especially like the Ivy Leagues. What they do is like if you're below an academic threshold, you're like automatic, you're not even considered, despite how good your extracurriculars are. Do you think this is true?
Um, Honestly, I think that might happen to certain schools, but when you talk about like strong extracurriculars, I'd say when you're like the top of like on in terms of the extracurriculars, maybe like you've been on the news before. At that point, even if you have a little weaker like side on the GPA or like grades wise, they
Mm-hmm.
might still consider you. Because having someone on the news in your school, or it just like gets better, right? For
Mm-hmm.
like the school itself, and that they can provide valuable contributions to the school itself.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, I've had a few friends that have weaker GPAs, but have gotten into schools like UC Berkeley, with strong extracurriculars. Um, Certain schools do, like I'd say, if they don't have like a good GPA, they just like immediately reject you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's fair. Maybe certain students might just not like that, but that's how the admissions process works. So yeah.
And then also like one epitome, or like it might be a far stretch, but like AV Schiffman, like he created like the COVID-19 tracker a couple of years ago, and I heard he had a very bad GPA, but like he still got into Harvard. So I guess there are some outliers here and there, but the generally like you need to have, like you mentioned, like a well-balanced stack and pretty versatile and good extracurriculars.
Mhm.
Okay. So now, moving on, like, how long do you guys spend like working on your nonprofit organization, and like how much time per week exactly do you guys give to it?
Um, yeah, well, that's a great question. For a nonprofit, basically, when we first started off, there was a lot more effort into it. There was a lot more time commitment into it. Just
Mhm.
because we were building the nonprofit, and I'm not sure if you know, but we started off in person with just like 20
Right,
families
yeah, yeah.
in a friend's sunroom, but now we've expanded over COVID-19, and now that we have a large audience to like pitch out to and like just provide resources to, we do have more volunteers helping out. And so the time commitment wise, it just like it's less on us now. Whereas before it used to be a lot more because there were less volunteers. But I'd say, given a rough estimate, we spend around 3 to 5 hours a week. Where when we have sessions, it might just bump up to a little bit more, maybe like 6 hours a week.
Hmm.
But other than that, it's a very casual thing that we do as our extracurricular.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
So,
actually,
okay, sorry.
yeah, I think it's really like what you guys do. Like you bring in a lot of informative people. Like I remember a while back, you brought in like a person got into MIT, right, from
Mhm.
American High. So I
Yeah.
actually listened to that full episode, and that was a really insightful one. So yeah, guys, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't like checked out their website, make sure to check that out. Would you mind saying it again for our audience?
Yeah. So it's www.dreambigforcollege.org.
Got it. There you guys go.
So, Preet and Aryan, how do you think your nonprofit organization will overall benefit your college application? Like, will it be your top extracurricular or something that's like considered really important?
Yeah. So um our nonprofit, it's for me, I'd say it wouldn't be my top extracurricular, uh, because I do have a lot of other extracurriculars that I do, which seem to have a lot of impact on my like life itself, and they're more related to my major. But the unique thing about this nonprofit, and the thing that has like the impact, is the fact that of course many people have nonprofits, but they're either like in their major, maybe they're like for CS, like teaching CS classes, or maybe their nonprofit is about, running some engineering classes. But the thing that's different about this nonprofit is that it relates to every single person in this world. Everyone has to go through the admissions process. And that's the unique thing about it. Not everyone has to go to CS, not everyone has to go to engineering, but the admissions process itself is very confusing. And the fact that it's being run by high school students, started off from scratch, with no resources, getting a large amount of impact, that itself is like the key factor that makes this nonprofit unique, that makes this nonprofit, a very, very essential part of mine and Aryan's and somebody volunteers college application.
Yeah, it basically shows the college admissions officers a different part of us rather than our, academic part or the parts of our application geared towards our major. It shows a different side of ourselves, how we concern ourselves with the community and how we like to help people. So that does help add a lot of depth to our application.
Definitely.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, and to follow up to that, so would you like consider it, like how the Common App, you can only list 10 extracurriculars and activities. Would it be considered like in your top 5? And again, if you don't want to share this, that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would be considered one of my top 5 extracurriculars, definitely. It's pretty high up there, I'd say.
Got it.
Yeah, same, more or less.
All right. So I have another question for you guys, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but so have you guys already decided, or have you guys already started writing your essays and decided which colleges you want to use your ED, EA, and REA to?
Yeah, before like you guys answer this, I believe Preet is a junior or rising junior, so
Okay. So
I don't think so he would be applying this cycle, but Aryan might be.
Or and you can give us some insight to it if you want to, of course.
Yeah, so right before school ended, like sometime in June, I attended this panel of seniors who are now obviously first year students in college, and they were talking about how they started their essays too late in like August or something, and then they had to rush through it, and their essays didn't end up as well as they wanted them to. So I kind of listened to that and I started like brainstorming my essay topics way back at the start of the summer break. And then I've been working on my essays on and off throughout the summer break. Right now I'm perfecting my personal insight statement. I think that's what it's called, yeah. I'm perfecting my personal statement.
Do you know which question you're working on, if you don't mind answering?
Actually, I'm not working on a specific question. I'm just working on my personal statement, and then I'm planning to adapt that to different essays instead of doing it vice versa.
Okay. Sounds really cool.
Okay, so and okay, this question's more towards Aryan because like he's gonna go in the college admission cycle like imminently soon. But you guys both can answer. So like, what school is like your dream school as of right now, and why would that be? Is it because of like the prestige? Obviously, like the Ivy Leagues, like obviously comes with a lot of prestige and bragging rights, or is it like the programs they offer? So like maybe like Purdue, it's not that well known compared to Ivy, but it has amazing programs for CS and engineering.
Well, my dream school is probably MIT because they focus on, I guess, integrating majors. Like, I don't know how to explain this, but I think what they do is they allow students from different majors to come together and work together on certain projects. So that makes sure that my skills aren't just like totally computer science focused. And I also learn how to apply them in other situations. So I think that is very valuable. And that's why MIT is my dream school for now.
Got
Yeah,
it.
definitely. Actually, for me, my dream school has been Stanford since a very, very long time. Maybe because when I was very young, we used to visit different colleges, and when I went to Stanford, it just felt different than all the other colleges. All the other colleges like Duke and like Harvard and like Princeton, all of them were like castles and all that. But when I went to Stanford, it just felt like home. But also, there's a particular like program that I'm interested in, which Stanford being the closest school offers, that not a lot of other schools offer. So that's also another reason why I think for me, Stanford is the dream to call.
Mhm.
So, okay, sorry, you can go.
Yeah, okay. So in terms like, okay, Aryan, you're saying MIT, right? So MIT doesn't use the Common App, so they have their own like questions and everything. And one question that's kind of like trips up people is like the summer question. What activities do you do in your summer? So I heard that MIT doesn't just want you to like start bragging on that section, like, hey, I did this research, I did this internship, I did this, I got this award, I did this. But rather, they want to see value in you as a person and like what you did, maybe like spend time with your family, you're out playing like basketball with your friends. So, do you think that counts? Or like, do you think,
Well, I mean, I guess just listing stuff makes it kind of boring and formulaic. I guess the best thing to do is describing what you did, but also like integrating it with other things, showing how you basically managed everything at once, your family, your sports, your hobbies, plus your extracurriculars. And you also, I guess, want to talk about how those factors helped you grow as a person. So not just, it shouldn't just be a list of what you did and just bragging. It should be everything else too.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Um, I have a few friends, my high school friends this year that got into MIT, this current like or 2022,
Mhm.
and they were telling me about this particular question. And so for one of the people, I can give you an example. In that particular section, they talked about how they started 3D printing parts for other people and 3D printing stuff for their whole family, like maybe like a case for their mom's glasses or maybe a chessboard or
Mhm.
chess pieces, things like that. And that's something that's very unique because I highly doubt a lot of people talk about what 3D printing is and like just talk about what they've done with the use of devices, technologies in their home. And he told me that that was a key factor in terms of getting into college is because see the thing is you only apply to 4 schools, LA, Berkeley, MIT, and Stanford. He got
Mhm.
into all of them, got waitlisted at Stanford, and got into MIT. So like he told me those were like key factors he talked about that particular question and how what he talked about in that question really mattered to MIT and its admission officers.
Mhm. And while we're on the matter of MIT, MIT is like very Olympiad heavy. Like you need to have like USICA Gold, USICA Platinum, maybe USMO qualified for like the International Computing League and like whatnot. So, do you think you even stand it like, and does an applicant stand a chance if they don't have like any of these like Olympiads?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Um, Again, a lot of students that apply to MIT, either they're very like academic heavy with like 4.0 GPAs and that's unweighted and all that, and then they have fives on all AP exams. But a majority of them do get rejected solely because they only have grades and know their extracurriculars. Um, but I think if you have a very solid like extracurricular, that might just get in like something like let's see, I guess anything that has an impact on the community
Mhm.
would have a good chance in the MIT applications.
But see, MIT is so hard. Like, I was reading on MIT blog from like some years ago, or like some while ago, that there's this kid, right, who created like a nuclear reactor in
Oh
their
my.
garage, and then he still got rejected from MIT. So,
Okay, think of it this way. The person who built the reactor got rejected from MIT, but people who didn't build the reactor got accepted into MIT conversely. So it's
uh-huh.
not like you don't stand a chance at all. It's not like
Yeah.
you have to do something very, 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 very good to get into MIT. You can also do more meaningful things that are, I guess, that sound less impressive than that, and you can
Yeah,
still
that's
have a
true.
chance of getting into MIT.
Right.
So both Preet and Aryan, are you guys participating in any internships that support your major or in any jobs?
I tried to find them, couldn't find any.
No, I'm not doing any internships or any jobs. No.
Well, have you guys heard of like the Rishi Kumar Congress campaign?
I believe so. Yes, I have.
It's like a type of internship that helps like so basically you just canvas and like support his campaign. So it's a pretty cool internship if you guys want to enroll in.
Hmm. Um, Honestly, like as a junior and as a senior, I don't think we have enough time to do
Yeah,
an internship. But
especially in your
definitely,
junior year, you'll be really busy for sure.
yeah, I think definitely something like an internship would be best suitable for going into like high school when you have your freshman year, much more free then, and especially that summer. There's a lot of like good opportunities in that summer of your ninth grade.
Yeah.
So
But
maybe that.
like the thing is like if you're doing internship related to your major, it's very hard like finding internship even for CS. Like even college freshmen have an insane hard time to find internships. So do you have any tips for like, finding an internship? Like you mentioned as a freshman, isn't that like nearly impossible?
Honestly, the best way to get internships or research opportunities or anything like that is through personal connections.
Right.
Your mom, dad, sibling, uncle, aunt, whatever, if they're working at a company that offers internships in like a major that you're interested in, definitely get them to contact the person or the right person to get you involved in that company. Um, it's helped my friends quite a bit. I'm not sure about how impactful that was on the application, but definitely helped them in getting the internship itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to add on something to that, Orion? Or no?
Yeah, so the thing is, if you try to search, if you try to like Google internships or jobs, if you do that search online, generally the things that come up in the search results are very competitive.
You're right.
And yeah, even if you apply, usually it'll be very hard for you to get in. Yeah, so as Preet said, I guess personal connections is your best bet.
Mm-hmm. And okay, as a follow-up to that, so do you think like these paid research programs, like where you pay money to like have a mentors you in like a niche field, do you think those are like slightly overrated, or like do you think they help in college applications? Where like obviously they're not scamming you, but like do you think college admission officers can like see through that, like, hey, you just paid money to get a research paper done?
Um, Really the thing that stands out most in like a paid research or anything like that is what the research is about. It really doesn't matter if you're paid or if you're doing a volunteer service or even if you're doing a research opportunity. It's just how impactful it is to your application and is it related to your major or something like that. Um, for example, let's say you're doing an internship or a research opportunity at Caltech and you're doing some like searching about bacteria and all that, and then you have a good research paper on that. But you're applying to CS, and that research paper has literally no meaning to your
Mm-hmm.
CS application. So when in terms of like when the college admission officer is looking at it, that extracurricular, that research has no meaning to it. It has no value to it. But if you were to do something in CS and you're majoring in CS and your research opportunities about this app that can sort something that can sort waste, for example, and then how you create an entire application on that, and you made admission or not admission officers, college professors or undergraduates look at the application and make it better for you or help you make it better. Now
Mm-hmm.
that has more of a meaning to it or an impact to it than something else.
Got it.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that. So if we want to talk about paid research programs specifically, I mean, you see college admissions officers, they usually can see through your admissions essays and see if you like, I guess, hired professional help to help write your essay because they generally know that a high school student is not going to produce an essay that is worthy of, a third year college student or a college graduate or something. So they know so they usually can tell if you hired professional help. So they probably can do the same thing with research papers. Again, I'm not sure, but I'm just giving my 2 cents. They could do the same thing with research papers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the thing is, if you like, I guess, if you're at a program at Stanford and you write a research paper there, then it's pretty obvious you got in because of your qualifications and not because you paid money. And then if they look at your research paper there, they're going to see that, oh, this research paper is very good quality. It's very professional. But they'll know that because it's Stanford, you got in because of your own
Right.
qualifications, not because you paid money.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
the
So
funny thing is, I have a friend whose friend hired someone to write their personal statement and all of their supplement questions, and that person got into Stanford. So yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is weird. Sometimes they're able to tell, sometimes they're not able to tell. Did the
Mhm.
person, did the hired help write everything for them,
Yep,
or
the supplement
This is
questions
for
and the personal
essays
statement.
or
Yeah,
the
the
research
essays.
essays? I think generally a lot of questions that people get are should we hire college consulting or people to help write our essays or not, or is it better to just like do it on your own and just like your school counselor help you? In that sense, I'd say having a college counselor, private college counselor, is much better because it's more of like a one-on-one instead of like a 300-to-1 counselor to student ratio. In that sense, with them writing everything, there has to be two key factors. It's if you have the right idea when you're writing the essay, and then having the right wording. So I know a few friends that had the right ideas and had people write essays for them, but were not able to get in because they didn't have exact like wordings like properly in their essays. But there are also students that don't have like the correct idea, but their word choice matters in the essay. Like every single word, the admission officers put a lot of like thinking into why they wrote it. Like I think a while back, a student was asked, I think in an interview actually, how do you define passion? And when the student was asked that, they like every single word was just like thought of like very, very like I would say in depth. And so that was like the deciding factor if they got in or not.
Mhm. So, okay, yeah, like you mentioned interviews. So there's like two or three like common interview questions. One of them being like, I believe if you're doing a CS major, it's like, what is it? Who inspires you the most? And like a lot of people say Steve Jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think that person should, it's obviously not the person you mentioned. It's like how you describe it. So do you have like any tips on like how to nail those types of interviews?
well, the first thing is to stand out. If you choose a common person like Steve Jobs, then you aren't really standing out. You aren't doing a good job of setting yourself apart from the other interviewees. Now, if you talk about different aspects of Steve Jobs than the other common aspects that other applicants talked about, then yes, you do stand out. But yeah, if you just talk about Steve Jobs and you and you talk about all the cliche qualities that he had and why you look up to him, and it's very, very cliche, and that's not going to help you stand out from the other applicants. It's not going to, I guess, help your interview. So what you want to do is you want to have something unusual in your interview. You either want your topic to be unusual or the implications that you draw from your topic to be unusual to stand out.
Exactly.
Yo, okay. Well, that's it for today for episode 12 of Weekly Dose of High School. Hope you guys enjoyed. Preet and Aryan share their high school experience and the advice for the college application. Remember to tune in later this week for part 2 of this episode.
Also, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, or YouTube. We're on all those platforms and we upload weekly episodes, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss an upload. And additionally, make sure to also check out Dream Big's website, and we'd like to thank them for coming on. And thank you so much for listening. Until then, take it easy, guys.